Representative Jason Sain. I represent Lincoln County, District 97. One of the bill sponsors of House Bill 334, which is the forgiveness for some of the liabilities that our businesses, our small businesses, our folks who provide the opportunity to go to work in this state and who have kept our economy floating and moving ahead despite the pandemic. These business owners have worked very hard to make sure that they keep their employees. And keep in mind, when the pandemic started back in February and March of last year, we were first told, well, 14 days and we'll be okay. And then 14 days became, 2 months, and then 2 months became 4 months. And it's no one knows how a pandemic's going to work. We've seen it go across the globe. No one could get this exactly right. But these small business owners and even big business owners and the mom and pops, everybody did their best to make sure that their employees had a place to work, even when productivity was cut sometimes to zero. If you think about some of our folks who are here today from the restaurant industry who really couldn't do much, but they kept their employees. And I think that's one of the reasons why we see our state in a good position as we bounce back from this pandemic, as more and more people are getting vaccinated, as we're getting back to work. We have been able to survive this. And so what you see with House Bill 334 that Representative Pickett and I sponsored is an opportunity to make sure that these folks have just a little more help to make sure that we continue to move forward with this state. And glad that you're here today to hear about what we're going to do with this bill. We think that we can move this pretty quickly and that we'll get it over to the Senate and then move from there. But it's incredibly important. You'll hear that from many of the business owners today. Next up on our agenda, we've got Speaker Moore. Speaker Moore.
Good morning. I want to welcome you all here with us today, and I especially want to welcome the number of business owners who are seated out here and those who are with us back here. These are a number of folks who actually are business owners and who were significantly impacted by the shutdown of the economy and by the tremendous decline in trade that we had. The Paycheck Protection Loan is a bill that has been bipartisan for both in its genesis and as it has continued. The bill was passed by Congress, signed initially by President Trump. It was reaffirmed with a new allotment of money that was then also signed by President Biden. I think the fact that at today's press conference you have both the majority leader and the minority leader, members of both parties in the House, shows that this is truly the recognition of the importance of this legislation is something that is bipartisan. The legislators who are standing behind me represent all corners of the state, from the coast to the mountains, from the cities to the rural areas, because every one of us in this state have seen firsthand how businesses have been impacted dramatically. Many of us, in fact, are business owners ourselves. Many of us, like myself, actually did receive the Paycheck Protection Loan Program to be able to stay open, to be able to keep companies open. Many of these folks may talk to you about the reduction in the revenues that their companies had. As somebody who owns a business, seeing a 25% reduction in income is dramatic. It's huge. Some of these companies, particularly think of the lodging and the restaurants, the hotels and the restaurants, they'll probably mention that the percentages that they've had are even more staggering because of how significant this has been. Well, this is an example where, as a part-time legislator, this shows we're being in tune with the business community, knowing the problems that are out there, fully understanding where we are. This is an opportunity that we know to respond in an effective way. This proposal came up in our caucus, I guess, what was it, Representative Bell, a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago? And I think it was a 57-7 vote. And very rarely can you get that much of a vote on anything as to, whether there's clouds in the sky or not. And so there's a recognition that this is a very, very significant issue for North Carolina. So where do we go? What does this mean? Roughly 200,000 businesses in this state receive Paycheck Protection Loans. This is a very large group. And it's very significant because if you look at the amount of businesses that are impacted, had this not happened, we already know how bad unemployment has been. Can you imagine how much worse it would have been? I'm just curious, by show of hands, those of you who are businesses here, but for this loan, how many of you would have had to have laid off additional workers? Just raise your hand. Just about everybody. This is a real issue. You know, and the citizens always want to know if government getting it right, not getting it right. My friends, this is an example of government getting it right. And so we're proud to be here today to advocate for this. And I don't want to take any more time because I want you to hear from a lot of these business owners around the state who have dealt with this firsthand and who desperately need this relief. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just as a point of reference, over 127,000 businesses in North Carolina took the PPP loans with an average of about 10 employees per business. So we're not talking about huge operations. Yes, there's some huge operations that participated as well, but the average of about 10 employees with 127,000 businesses in our state, that this is significant legislation for them. Next up, we'll hear from our Minority Leader, Robert Reeves.
Oh, and thank you for that, Chairman Sain, and also thank you, Speaker Moore, and thank you all of you that are here. As you see, this is truly a bipartisan effort. This has been a great opportunity, and it's one of the things that all of us have concentrated on. I agree with Speaker Moore. One of the things that you always question is whether or not government's getting it right and whether or not we understand what the struggles are of small businesses. And as small business owners and people who have been tied into our business communities and understand the struggles that not just the businesses have had, but the employees have had. During this time, what we wanted to do is to make sure that we took advantage of all opportunities that we could to help North Carolinians in this particular situation. I want to especially say that how thankful I am to have some of the people that I have from my caucus here today, our finance leaders with Michael Ray and Brandon Lofton and Wesley Harris did a yeoman's job trying to make sure that we had a good caucus vote also, as the Speaker talked about, because there are a lot of times that you can have a little division, a little concern, but these gentlemen made sure that they studied this, they understood the issue, that they studied the American Rescue Plan, they showed the opportunities that we had with the PPP loans and to align with the federal government on this. And so we're thankful that Congress did put us in a position to do this, and at the very same time that we had people in our caucus who understood that, hey, these are the things we've got to do. Howard Hunter and I are also here as business owners, as people who understand that if we don't make these opportunities available for our citizens, what can happen to our state? Because as Chairman Sain said, our small businesses are what make up North Carolina. We love our corporations, we love all these people. Without the small businesses and employees that they have, we can't get North Carolina where it needs to be. So again, thank you, Speaker Moore, for your foresight and for making this another bipartisan effort. It's the second press conference we've had together in the last 2 months, which is more than we've had in the last 7 years. So that's good.
It's a good trend.
It's a good trend, and we're going to keep it up. So thank all of you, and thank you all you small business owners for being here with us today. And again, thank you, Michael, Brandon, Wesley, for making sure we had a good, smooth vote on all of this.
Thank you, Robert. And I will say, if you were listening into the Finance Committee the other day when we took up the bill, we got a unanimous vote out of the committee, which that doesn't happen very often either. But the input from both Republicans and Democrats, I think Representative Harris had some really great remarks about the work here, understanding it as an economist. You like when the guy from the other party who's an economist weighs in on your bill and then goes to vote for it. So we really have worked together on this, and so it's been great to do that. Next up, one of the advocates in our caucus, and when we held our caucus talking about this bill, was Representative John Bradford from Mecklenburg. And sir, if you'll come up.
Thank you, Representative Sain. Good morning. It's great to be with you. I'm John Bradford out of Mecklenburg County, District 98. Obviously, I'm standing here with many of my colleagues from both sides of the aisle. You know, we're not just legislators, we're business owners too. And it's noteworthy that here in North Carolina, we're part-time lawmakers, and we're a citizen-led legislature where we have backgrounds, varying disciplines. And many of us here are business owners. We're also joined in this room by business owners from across the state. It's no secret that small businesses are the backbone of the North Carolina economy, and the PPP, the Payroll Protection Program, was an economic stimulus lifeline to the American economy because of an unprecedented global pandemic. It was specifically designed to protect American jobs because our national and state economies effectively shut down overnight due to COVID-19. As small business owners, many of us here, we participated in the PPP because we wanted to save the livelihoods of our own employees and help save their jobs. We must remind ourselves, folks, that this pandemic is not over. In fact, it's far from over. We are still in the middle of an economic recovery. We are not out of the woods yet, and collectively, I believe we together are taking the necessary steps to ensure small businesses and our employees can realize the full benefit that has been offered by our federal government. I think the importance of this specific legislation is that we're merely aligning and conforming to the way the federal government is treating the PPP, as well as joining 47 other states that have already done the same. Federal and state tax filings have been extended from April 15th to May 17th. Folks, we have 22 business days left for businesses to file their federal and state taxes. Time is of the essence, and we need to get this done. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us today, and I commend everyone from both sides of the aisle for being here, and all the business owners for driving our North Carolina economy. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Representative Bradford. Next up on our agenda today, we've got Representative Keith Kidwell, who by trade is an accountant and really understood the complexities and the things that small businesses have been facing. So, Representative Kidwell.
Thank you, Representative Sane. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate the shout out as an accountant. I'm actually an enrolled agent. Thank you. So licensed in all 50 states, if you will. So big difference. Anyway, so in addition to representing Beaufort and Craven counties, I operated an accounting firm, one of the largest ones in Eastern North Carolina. We assist hundreds of businesses in obtaining PPP loans. I want to give you a little bit of information on this. The name of the program tells you everything you need to know. It's the Paycheck Protection Program. Matter of fact, from the SBA's website, the PPP loan, this is a quote, is designed to provide a direct incentive for small businesses to keep their workers on payroll. That's what this was designed to do. With that said, we were told from the onset that the loan forgiveness would be tax-free. Late last year, Congress corrected some language that the Internal Revenue Service had opined would not permit the deduction of the related expenses that the PPP loan was used for. Let's remember, most of these businesses didn't close by choice. In most cases, they were forced to close. Some of them totally shut down. The government issued PPP loans so that business owners could keep their employees on payroll. If they had not gotten the loans, how many more people would have been on unemployment? How many small businesses would have just flat out closed permanently, which the impact financially to the state of North Carolina would have been far more significant. The average business in our area took a very small loan, but let me give you a number. A $50,000 deduction to a small business equates to $2,625 in actual tax savings. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot to the big companies, but to the people that I represent, to the small businesses that I work for, that's significant. That is a very significant number. You take that and multiply it by, maybe they got 100,000, so now we're at about $50-some hundred, $5,200, $5,300. That's a lot of money for a small business. Think about it if you own a small business. I've assisted dozens of small business owners in obtaining the Paycheck Protection loans that would have otherwise laid off thousands of employees just in Beaufort County, just in the little county of Beaufort. We're not big, 45,000 people there. The other thing that we don't realize is the additional expenses that people faced due to this. Not just that they kept people on staff they might not have otherwise used, they had to buy things like masks and hand sanitizers and special ventilation systems for their offices. Partitions, did anybody go out and buy some of those partitions at $150 per workstation? That adds up fast. I have 13 workstations in my office. That's a lot of money. So this also goes to help that, and not just the loan. The forgiveness of the tax on it or the ability to deduct the related expenses is extremely important. We need to stand by our small business owners who put themselves out there. The allowance of deducting the Paycheck Protection Program related expenses should be allowed to assist a business in their recoveries from the impacts of the COVID pandemic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Kidwell. when we started talking about the concept of the bill, we've actually had this concept around for a little while. Looking at it last year, again, a lot of confusion as you look at the tax policy coming down from the federal government. They're really, sincerely, everyone is making it up as they go along because we just didn't know how to do this. And so you had the ambiguity and what was coming down from the feds, but understanding it. And then Representative Ray Pickett, who's a freshman legislator here from Ashe County, who's the main sponsor of the bill and who I was glad to go on with him, was extremely passionate about this because he's heard it in his community. And really, as he took it to our caucus, as he took it to the various committees talking about the bill, just, again, understood what it meant to so many people across this state. Those who go to work every day and make our economy run. Government only gets money from one place, and we wouldn't be talking about budgets, and we're in the budget season now, except for the money that we take in from the productivity of the people across this state. So we know how important it is to make sure that we keep that productivity level up, and we keep our economy moving. And with that, Representative Ray Pickett.
Thank you, Representative Sane. The emotional side of this is many people in my district didn't know this was happening until they went to their CPAs and they had to file their taxes. Then all of a sudden, they've got a big tax bill on top of what they've gone through this year. And they came to me, emails, phone calls, in person. I didn't understand it. I'd filed my taxes and then I got mine back. So I asked, why are we taxing PPP? They said, well, we're not. I said, well, what are these bills? It was the deduction that we did not couple with the federal government. So I got busy and I found out what we needed to do. Came to my friend Jason Sane and asked him for some help because I was a freshman here. He gave me guidance and we moved forward to help these people. And it's not only helping my district of Ashford and Watauga County, but it's going to help people across the state to keep their businesses open. Because we're not through this yet, but we're hoping this summer that this state can fully recover and these businesses can get back to doing what they do, keeping people employed and making this state a much better place. Thank you for all being here.
And next up, our last legislator, also our freshman leader on the Republican side, Representative David Willis, who represents Union County. Representative Willis.
Thank you, Representative Sane. Thank you to our collective leadership for being here today and supporting this. Thank you for all the business owners that are here. And I'd like to put a little bit of a face of a business on this as well. As Representative Bradford said earlier, you know, we are part-time legislators here. Many of us are business owners. I own and operate a local preschool in my district. And, you know, this has been tough. A year ago, we sat down as a group collectively when it was 2 weeks. And we said, what do we want to do? Are we going to keep our doors open? Are we going to shut down? How are we going to deal with this? And at that time, we were restricted to only covering and serving children who were children of those frontline essential workers. And our staff said, we're going to keep our doors open. We're going to be here for those families, for those doctors, for those nurses, for those medical staff, for those first responders. We're going to keep our doors open and help them. And I've got a business that is licensed for 172 children. We dropped to 30. And yet, through the PPP process, we were able to keep our staff employed, provide them with bonuses and extra help for them during this difficult time. We were able to keep our doors open, serving those frontline workers as we dealt with this over the last year. And our businesses need that support, because without that, honestly, I don't know if we'd be open today. And in the child care industry across the state, we've lost a significant number of providers, and those doors will not reopen when our economy fully reopens. They're gone. And so the significance of this and the help that we need for these small businesses continues. They still struggle, and we're still struggling. I mean, we were down, you know, Speaker mentioned 25% reduction earlier. We were down 85% in revenue this past year, 85%. So without these programs, without this type of assistance, you know, a lot of these businesses are never going to recover. And so I'm proud to be a business owner. I'm proud to be a legislator today here helping support our small businesses. And thank you for being here. Thank you for your time.
Next, we're going to move into some of the business owners across the state. You've heard from legislators who are business owners, and I remember getting that phone call from my largest client and my customer, and understanding that they had to change their pathway because of the pandemic. And that's a big hit. And for the legislators that were here in this building as we work through the challenges of COVID, keep in mind that a large portion of our members were worried about what was happening at home and how they were going to protect their employees and how they were going to continue on. But the other folks doing that are the people that aren't connected to government, that just want to show up, provide a good product, provide a good service, and serve their customers. And they had to suffer through this too. And I know they had a lot of late nights and a lot of worry and a lot of angst thinking about the people that work for them, because they truly do care about them. And so these folks that you're going to hear from next had to live through that and have come out the other side of it. As one of the folks said earlier, it's not over yet. We know that, but we are trying to set ourselves on a great path forward and to move forward. So first up, we've got Doug Wharf, who's president of O2 Fitness. Doug.
Thank you. I'm Doug Wharf, president of O2 Fitness, which has 16 gyms across the state of North Carolina. Also a founding member of the North Carolina Fitness Alliance. The health and fitness industry in North Carolina has been decimated by COVID. We were mandated to stay shut for 7 months, which was the second longest closure in the U.S. The only slight benefit to this is the next 6 months, our financial meetings are a little shorter, because the year over year is 100% right now. We were at 0% for the next 6 months. The way that we kept our employees engaged and with us was through the payroll protection plan. Us, along with thousands of our counterparts, used PPP as a lifeline to keep those employees with us while we were closed for 7 months. We're still fighting an uphill battle. There was a lot of inaccurate information that came out around the fitness industry over the past year, and that's hurt our recovery. But there is still hope for us and for our 500 plus employees in North Carolina and growing because of the payroll protection plan. And when I say that for us, and I say that for the thousands of fitness professionals across North Carolina who daily focus on health and fitness of our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. And as I talked about some of the members that also are business owners and took the PPP loans, one of the things that we wanted to make sure of, and probably a question we'll get from press and those that look at it, we want to make sure that we were able to put forward this bill in an ethical way, because there were 202,965 PPP loan recipients in North Carolina. And so we looked at it, we got a ruling from our ethics folks that the PPP loan applies equally to all recipients. So it's not a favor for a legislator, one or two, or anything like that, just simply as being business owners who were eligible to take the PPP loans. So there's a general class exception that would apply and allow participation in the legislative action, provided our independence of judgment's not impaired. So we wanted to make sure that was something that would survive the sniff test. And as you see, it really does impact a lot of our legislators too, who are also business owners. But I want to make sure we got that out there as well. And next up, Jason Smith, owner of 18 Restaurant Group in Raleigh. If you've been in Raleigh long enough, you get to sample some of his great fare. And we missed it for a while, but glad you're still here, that big boys like me can still go to a good place to eat. But Jason, come on up.
My name is Jason Smith, and my wife and I own Cantina 18, a Southwest restaurant here in Raleigh, and Harvest 18 in Durham. When the pandemic hit, we decided that we were going to stay open and offer the curbside and keep as many people employed as we could. We had about 15% of our staff working. About 2 weeks into the shutdown, it came to our knowledge that despite the tremendous amount of curbside business we were doing, we were still losing over $2,000 a day. The PPP, the idea of the PPP gave us a lot of hope. We decided to keep pushing forward, continuing the curbside in hopes that we would get some PPP money. We received our funding on Friday night. The following Saturday, I had 85% of my workforce back on the job. That Monday morning, we paid our rent. We paid 3 different purveyors who had extended 90%, 90-day terms. And we were told to do that by the federal government. And we were told that we had 8 weeks to spend the money. And I felt like it was our duty to spend the money, and I felt like it was the right thing to do. Although we are on a major upswing now, and we are seeing great optimism in our industry right now, we still don't have our financial footing. We're still not on the other side of this. It will take me at least another year to get back to where I was prior pandemic. That being said, this would be a terrible time to tax the PPP money that I received and that I already spent. I do want to thank both parties for working so hard on the bipartisanship of this and taking the time to let all these small business owners come and speak today.
Thanks, Jason. Next up, we've got Sammy Hobgood, General Manager. He's also son of one of the owners of Big Ed's. Again, Big Ed's produces a Big Jason, and we like Big Ed's. Come on up.
I wouldn't have said that. So I'm Sammy Hobgood. I'm the kitchen manager at our downtown store. I walked here, and we'll be walking back into the kitchen when I'm done. And I hope y'all join me for lunch. It'd be great to have you. A year ago this time, we had closed our restaurant, but we made the personal investment and decision to use our own funds to continue paying our staff. And when we received the Paycheck Protection Program funding, that was a literal lifeline. You know, the state of North Carolina will continue to thrive and survive without collecting this tax revenue, but the many small businesses like ours that stand to lose $30,000 out the door could fold. There are a lot of businesses in North Carolina that run a really high risk of not making it through these next few months if they take this tax hit. So this isn't over, not for any industry, not for the restaurant industry. And we're really honored that you guys are putting this together and doing the right thing. So please pass Bill 344. It means a lot to everybody here. Thank you.
Thanks, Sammy. Next up, we've got Katie Creech. She's the co-owner of the Glass Jug Brewery in Durham. And I'll refrain from talking about breweries and how it relates to me. But
Probably a safe move. So yeah, I'm Katie Creech. I'm a co-owner of the Glass Jug in Durham, North Carolina. We have a tap room in downtown Durham, and our original location is a bottle shop and brewery in RTP. The Payroll Protection Program, along with a truly Herculean effort on the part of our team, allowed my business to do a tremendous amount of good in our community in 2020. And I want to take just a second to tell you about that. We were able to keep our entire team employed in 2020, and we were able to end our reduced work hours after only 2 months of the pandemic. The owners of our company, my husband and I, took a significant pay cut in our expected earnings for 2020 to be able to actually expand our business, which has put us in a place where today we have twice as many employees as we did this time last year. Part of our business as a bottle shop in RTP also allowed us to sell $1 million of products created by other small independent businesses in 2020 alone. And we could not, I cannot stress this enough, we could not have done this without the Payroll Protection Program. When we received our loan, we were instructed and in fact required to spend all of the money, like others before me have said, within 8 weeks. We didn't use this money to line our pockets. We used this money to pay our people and to do good in our communities and support our communities. That said, let me assure you this money is gone. So at this point, the way I see it, taking these taxes at this point and at this stage, this late in the game, feels like two things as a business owner. One is that it feels to me like the state of North Carolina would be asking for part of my SBA loan to be given as a gift to the state. And that doesn't feel right to me. The second is that it's asking people to come up with money that, frankly, they were required to spend months ago. I also want to speak very quickly to the fact that I know it feels to the general population like the world is opening up and that things are starting to return to normal, and there's a lot of hope, and you should feel that way. But many restaurants, brewery tap rooms, because we are trying to keep groups 6 feet apart and keep groups safe, many of us are not able to hit that 75% capacity that we're legally allowed to do. We're trying to keep people safe, and so we are not out of the woods yet. And it does not feel to me like an appropriate time to put an unexpected financial burden on these small businesses.
Next up, we'll hear from Russel Rhodes, owner of New Sports Shop in Kinston. Russell?
Thank you. Yes, sir. Hi, I'm Russel Rhodes. I'm the president of New Sports Shop. We have a store in Kinston and in Cedar Point. I'm also the chair of the North Carolina Retail Merchants Association, which I'm proud to help represent 2,500 businesses with 25,000 locations within the state. 1/4 of all the workers work in retail. So my story is somewhat a sample of what those retail stores experience. You know, not knowing the future, not having any idea how long the storm was going to last and how hurtful the storm was going to be, really put retailers on the shaky ground. The concern, every person here who runs a business thought about the word liquidity. Did we have enough money to make it through the storm, this unknown distance of a storm? Our most valuable capital in our asset in our companies is human capital. Payroll protection gave us that security we needed to keep our people employed. Our store was open partially throughout the entire year last year, but half of our people, 50% of my small business, about a little over 100 employees, could have been laid off because I did not have work for them to do in the type of work they were trained and hired to do. We're hearing a lot of numbers. It's not the numbers. These are humans. These are our neighbors, our friends. These are the people that have the heart, the spirit, and the knowledge to run a business. As a store that has been flooded 3 times, I can tell you those young people with that knowledge and that culture of your business is what helps you fuel a recovery. We're in a recovery now. I fully feel the payroll protection plan was there to help us keep our people employed, as we did. And I don't think it was intended to be a windfall for the state coffers. Please support House Bill 334. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. Next up, we've got Steve Ashworth, who's the owner of Ashworth's Clothing and Shows in Fuquay Marina. Sorry.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Like you said, I'm Steve Ashworth from Fuquay Marina with Ashworth's Clothing. We've been in business for 84 years in Fuquay, and this was some trying times we came across. Our stores survived world wars, Korean War, Vietnam War, the gas crisis, so many crises, but never have we been closed due to a government mandate. So we were deemed a non-essential business. So for 42 days, we didn't know what we were going to do. In our business, in the clothing business, we buy our products 6 months in advance. We contract with suppliers, and they ship them to us. So the goods for last spring came in February and March. So on March 28th, when we closed, I owed everyone money. And the rent didn't stop, the lights didn't stop, the taxes didn't stop. It all kept, and so then I had to come up with a financing plan to try to pay these people that owed for the merchandise I wasn't selling. Our business is so dependent upon other businesses, whether it's a wedding venue or a prom at a school or a funeral, and all of these things ceased. So our business came to a screeching halt. The PPP was an excellent for us. It kept us going with people. We've got tailors, salespeople, accountants. So for us, it was a lifeline. It was nice to know that this money was coming in. We could pay it to these folks and continue. Still not knowing what the future holds. Here we are in 2021. Just to let you know, the first quarter of 2021 is still 44% less than 2019. The 2020 numbers are no good to us because we were closed. So again, we're very thankful for this. The relief on the taxes will be outstanding, so please support the bill. Thanks so much.
And last, certainly not least, Gary Brittle, sales manager with Universal Chevrolet in Wendell. Gary.
Good morning. I'm Gary Brittle with Universal Chevrolet. We're a small Chevrolet dealership in eastern Wake County, serving all surrounding counties. And in late March, we realized that we may have to cut 25% of our workforce, and we have 48 employees, which we consider our family members. And that was really tough. And the Paycheck Protection Program helped us weather the storm, and we really appreciated that. We made things happen with that money. We did follow it to the letter of the law so that it would be forgiven the taxes on the federal level. And I hope that you'll support this bill so that we can get it done on the state level. And thank you, everybody, for being here, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Gary. I remember having to go out in my driveway and start my truck because it hadn't ran in a number of days because we just weren't going anywhere. So we certainly weren't having the vehicle serviced or shopping for new cars at that time. So again, you've heard the stories of all these folks who are in business, who have kept people employed because of the PPP program, and it's meant so much to them. These are stories that you could hear all across this state. They represent just their business, but they don't just represent them. They represent all small business across the state that really just had to shut down during this. So thank you all for being here today. We'll take any questions that we might have.